Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a really heavy but incredibly important topic, student suicide. We'll be looking at this in educational settings, schools, colleges, universities, both here and around the world.
Yeah, it's something we absolutely need to talk about. The sources you shared and my own research really lay bare why it's such a critical public health issue right now.
It really is. I mean, the statistics are quite stark. For young people, it's one of the leading causes of death.
Yeah.
In the U.S., looking back at around 2020, suicide ranked as, I think, the second or third leading cause for people aged 10 to 34.
That's right. And globally, the picture isn't much different. For 15 to 29-year-olds in 2021, it was the third leading cause.
And the trends,
Yeah.
they're worrying. Your work pointed out a 62% increase in suicide deaths for 10 to 24-year-olds in the U.S. between 2007 and 2021.
Yeah, a really significant jump. It shows this isn't a static problem. It's been actively getting worse in recent years for that age group.
And internationally, I was struck by the figures from India you highlighted, the student suicide rate doubling in the past decade. Over 13,000 in 2022 alone.
It's staggering. That works out to more than 35 students a day. It really puts the scale of the crisis into perspective. Different pressures maybe, but a tragic outcome.
Absolutely. Now, there's a bit of nuance with college students specifically, right? Some studies suggest maybe slightly lower rates compared to non-students the same age.
That's true, and it might be linked to, the support structures available on some campuses, but, and this is a big but, suicidal thoughts and attempts are still alarmingly high within college populations.
Okay.
Recent U.S. studies, like from 2023, show maybe 10 to 15% reporting suicidal ideation, thinking about it, and around 2% reporting actual attempts. So even with potential campus supports, the risk is very present.
And it seems like this isn't impacting everyone equally. The materials suggest sharper increases among female students in terms of thoughts and attempts.
Yes, though historically males have had higher completion rates. Also, a really troubling rise among Black youth.
Right. And the situation in India suggests certain specific, maybe cultural or academic pressures piling on particular groups.
Exactly. Which brings us to why educational institutions are such key environments here.
Yeah.
You've got major life transitions happening, immense pressures, identity formation, all during the years, say 18 to 24, when many mental health challenges first emerge.
So schools and universities are kind of on the front line. They have the potential for early identification and support.
Precisely. They offer huge opportunities for intervention, for fostering protective factors, for building resilience, if they get it right.
Okay, so that's really the goal of this deep dive then, to try and understand the causes, the systemic things going on, the warning signs, prevention strategies.
And importantly, the roles different people and systems play. How can we use evidence to actually make things better for student well-being?
Good. And maybe, just quickly, we should define our terms to make sure we're clear.
Good idea. So, suicide is death caused by injuring oneself with the intent to die. A suicide attempt involves self-injury with intent to die, but the person survives.
Okay.
Suicidal ideation just refers to thoughts of ending one's life. It's different from non-suicidal self-injury, which is self-harm without the intention to die.
Right, an important distinction.
And language matters. It's better practice to say someone died by suicide rather than committed suicide. It's less stigmatizing.
Got it. Okay, so diving into the causes. Based on the research, what are the main individual risk factors that make a student more vulnerable?
Well, first and foremost, existing mental health conditions are a huge factor. Depression is really key here.
Right.
Also, a history of previous attempts or self-harm is one of the strongest predictors. Then there are things like family history, suicide, or mental illness in the family. Biological or physical factors like chronic pain or disability can play a role. And psychological factors too, deep feelings of hopelessness, low self-esteem, feeling trapped, or like you're a burden on others.
And what about the environment? Academics, social life, family?
Absolutely critical. Academic pressure is a big one. Intense competition, fear of failure, just the sheer workload. You mentioned Coda in India earlier. That's a stark example of extreme academic pressure having devastating consequences.
Yeah.
Then socially, things like bullying, isolation, relationship problems, family issues too, conflict, abuse, maybe unrealistic expectations from parents. Stressful life events can act as triggers.
So like a breakup or failing an exam.
Could be, yeah. Or exposure to suicide, like a friend or family member dying by suicide. And critically, access to lethal means. That's often a factor in turning thoughts into action.
It seems like there's a difference between thinking about suicide and actually attempting it.
Yes, definitely. Things like impulsivity, access to means, as I said, and acute stressors can bridge that gap between ideation and action.
You mentioned earlier that some groups seem to be at higher risk. Can we unpack that a bit?
Yeah.
Intersectionality, I think you called it.
Right. Intersectionality helps us understand how different aspects of a person's identity, like race, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, socioeconomic status, can overlap and create unique experiences of discrimination and disadvantage.
Okay.
So we see higher suicide rates among, for instance, American Indian and Alaska Native youth. We see rising rates among Black youth. LGBTQ plus young people face significantly higher risk, strongly linked to discrimination and lack of acceptance.
So it's the discrimination, not the identity itself.
Exactly. That's crucial. It's the societal prejudice and systemic barriers they face. International students deal with unique stressors too: cultural adjustment, isolation. Youth with disabilities, those in foster care or the justice system, low-income students, they all face elevated risks because of societal factors.
Let's shift to the institutions themselves. What systemic things within schools or universities contribute?
Well, the academic culture itself can be a factor. High-pressure environments can seriously impact mental health, sometimes feeling at odds with, the actual goal of learning and personal growth.
And the support systems, mental health services on campus.
Yeah, that's a huge piece. Are services available? Are they accessible? Meaning, can students actually use them? Think about cost, waiting times, stigma. Are they good quality?
Right.
Often, resources are limited. Maybe they only offer short-term solutions when students need more sustained support. Institutional policies matter too. How do they handle mental health leave? Accommodations? What are the crisis protocols?
And the general campus climate.
Hugely important. Is it a culture that promotes well-being, belonging, and support? Or does it perpetuate stigma around mental health? A coordinated approach involving everyone, faculty, staff, admin, students, community partners, is really what's needed.
Okay, so if someone is worried about a student, what are the warning signs they should look out for?
The research points to signs across 3 areas: talk, behavior, and mood.
Okay, talk first.
Listen for talk about wanting to die, feeling hopeless, trapped like a burden, or just increased talk about death or suicide in general.
And behavior.
Look for changes. Making plans for suicide, withdrawing from friends or activities they used to enjoy, giving away important possessions, saying goodbye in a final kind of way. Maybe increased substance use, changes in eating or sleeping, a drop in school performance.
Right, a noticeable shift.
Exactly. And mood changes, extreme swings, ongoing sadness or anxiety, losing interest in things, irritability.
It's rarely just one thing then.
Usually not. It's often a combination, the severity, and definitely a change from their baseline. And one thing to be particularly aware of, sometimes if someone's been deeply depressed, a sudden lift in mood, seeming much better, can actually be a danger sign. It might mean they've made a decision and feel a sense of relief.
Yeah, it's important to know.
The key is to take any sign seriously. Don't dismiss it, and be direct. Ask them, are you thinking about suicide? It doesn't plant the idea. It can open the door for help.
Okay, so given all this complexity, what do effective prevention strategies look like? What can actually be done?
It really needs a multifaceted approach. Strengthening economic supports for families can reduce stress. Creating protective environments is key. That includes things like reducing access to legal means, but also fostering healthier school or campus policies and cultures. Improving access to quality mental health care is vital. Promoting healthy connections, social support networks, teaching coping skills and resilience, identifying and supporting those at risk early on.
And what happens after a suicide occurs?
That's postvention. Having strategies in place to support the community, prevent suicide clusters, and help people grieve and cope is also a critical part of a comprehensive plan.
This has been a really vital discussion, even though the topic is difficult, a lot to think about. What's one final thought you'd want to leave listeners with?
I think it's just acknowledging the complexity. Student suicide isn't simple. It requires a concerted effort from everyone, individuals, institutions, society. So maybe ask yourself, based on what we've talked about, what's one single action you could take, however small, that might create a positive ripple effect in the life of a student you know?